Ladies and gentlemen, stress is not the enemy, it is the gateway to uncovering the peace that has always been within you. Today I invite you on a journey not out into the world but inward, into the quiet depths of your own being. Our subject is something that touches us all, stress. But we will explore not just how to manage stress, but how to manage stress, but how to transform it into something profoundly beautiful, peace. Stress is not the storm, it is the call to return to your inner stillness. Peace is not something you find, it is something you remember. May you leave today knowing that peace is your truest nature, and stress, when embraced, is merely the doorway back to it. Stress is a universal experience, one that most of us view as an unwelcome guest. It shows up unexpectedly, disrupting our peace and clouding our minds. But what if stress isn't an enemy at all? What if, instead of being something to fight against, it's a signal, a guide meant to draw our attention to something deeper within ourselves? By changing how we perceive stress, we can begin to see it not as a burden, but as a teacher. Imagine for a moment that you are standing at the edge of a forest. Stress is like a rustling in the trees, a sound that alerts you to something moving in the undergrowth. You could panic, assuming danger, or you could pause, listen carefully, and investigate. What if the rustling isn't a threat, but an invitation to explore? Stress, in the same way, is a message, a subtle or sometimes loud nudge that something in your life is out of alignment or in need of attention. When stress arises, it is often our instinct to resist it. We try to push it away, distract ourselves, or suppress the feeling. This resistance, however, only strengthens its grip. Stress feeds on avoidance and grows in the shadow of denial. The more we fight it, the more entrenched it becomes. Yet, if we shift our perspective and allow ourselves to observe stress without judgment, we begin to see it for what it truly is, a signal from within, asking us to pause and pay attention. Stress is not random. It arises when there is a gap between our inner state and the external circumstances we face. This gap can take many forms: a challenging situation, an unmet expectation, or even a sense of disconnection from ourselves. Rather than treating stress as an obstacle, we can choose to see it as an opportunity to explore this gap. What is the situation revealing about your thoughts, beliefs, or priorities? What is the unmet expectation telling you about your desires or attachments? What is the sense of disconnection pointing to in your inner life? These questions turn stress into a gateway for self-understanding. It's important to recognize that stress is not inherently negative. It is simply energy, a physiological and emotional response to stimuli. This energy can be overwhelming if left unchecked, but it can also be channeled and transformed. When you view stress as a signal, you create space for curiosity rather than fear. Instead of being consumed by the feeling, you become the observer, stepping back to examine its source and meaning. This shift from reaction to reflection is a powerful step toward inner peace. Stress also carries with it an important reminder to pause and reconnect with the present moment. Often we become stressed because we are caught in a cycle of overthinking, worrying about the future, or ruminating on the past. Stress arises when our minds are pulled in too many directions, leaving us fragmented and unfocused. But if we treat stress as a signal, it can remind us to return to the simplicity of now. By anchoring ourselves in the present, we begin to see stress for what it is: a fleeting experience, not a permanent state. Another profound realization is that stress often highlights areas where we are holding on too tightly. It points to our need for control, our attachment to specific outcomes, or our resistance to change. When we view stress as a signal, we can ask ourselves, what am I clinging to in T? This question helps us uncover the root cause of our discomfort and opens the door to letting go. Letting go doesn't mean giving up, it means releasing the mental and emotional grip we have on situations we cannot fully control. In doing so, we create space for peace to emerge. Stress also teaches us about balance. When it arises, it often signals that something in our lives is out of harmony. Perhaps we are overcommitted, neglecting self-care, or prioritizing things that do not truly nourish us. These imbalances are not failures, but invitations to recalibrate. Stress shows us where adjustments are needed, encouraging us to realign with what truly matters. Ultimately, stress is not your adversary, it is your guide. When you view it as a signal rather than a threat, you empower yourself to respond with wisdom and grace. Instead of being consumed by the feeling, you can use it as a tool for growth and transformation. Stress, when embraced with awareness, becomes a pathway to deeper self-understanding and a reminder of the peace that lies within you, waiting to be rediscovered. The human mind has an extraordinary capacity to wander. It leaps from past memories to future worries, often without our conscious direction. This wandering, though natural, is a fertile ground for stress. Stress feeds on the stories we create about what might happen, what should have happened, or what we fear losing. It thrives in the tension between our thoughts and reality. But there is a way to dissolve stress, a way to interrupt its cycle, and that is through the power of presence. Presence is the simple yet profound act of fully inhabiting the current moment. It is not about avoiding the past or denying the future, but about stepping out of the incessant mental chatter and into the stillness of now. When we are present, we are no longer tangled in the web of imagined fears or regrets. Instead, we anchor ourselves in the reality of this moment where stress cannot survive. To understand the transformative power of presence, consider how stress typically operates. Stress arises from a perception of threat, often magnified by our minds. Perhaps you're replaying a difficult conversation in your head, imagining different outcomes, or worrying about a meeting tomorrow that hasn't even happened yet. The body reacts to these thoughts as though the events are real, triggering tension, racing thoughts, and a sense of overwhelm. But none of this exists in the present moment. It is all a projection, a mental construct of now. Imagine pausing in the midst of this mental storm. Instead of being swept away by thoughts, you choose to focus on something immediate and real, the sound of your breath, the sensation of your feet on the ground, or the feeling of the air around you. In that moment, the storm begins to lose its power. By bringing your attention fully to the present, you interrupt the cycle of stress and step into a space of clarity. Presence does not mean the absence of challenges. Life will still bring its difficulties, but when you approach these challenges with full awareness, you meet them with greater ease and wisdom. Stress often arises not from the challenges themselves, but from our resistance to them. We create mental stories about how things should be, or how they might go wrong. When you're present, these stories fade, and you are left with only the reality of the situation. In that reality, there is far more peace than the mind would have you believe. One of the most beautiful aspects of presence is that it requires no special tools or techniques. It is always available to you, wherever you are. All it asks is your attention. To practice presence, you don't need to retreat to a quiet place or carve out hours of your day. You can begin right here, right now. Close your eyes for a moment, take a deep breath, and notice the sensation of the air entering your lungs. Feel the weight of your body in your seat, the subtle movements of your hands. In doing this, you are not escaping your life, you are stepping into it fully. Presence also invites you to observe without judgment. When stress arises, instead of labeling it as bad or trying to push it away, you can simply notice it. Where do you feel it in your body? What thoughts accompany it? By observing stress with curiosity rather than resistance, you allow it to be seen for what it is, a passing experience, not a permanent state. In this way, stress loses its intensity and begins to dissolve. This practice of presence is not just a tool for managing stress in the moment. Over time, it becomes a way of life. The more you cultivate presence, the more you realize that peace is not something external to be achieved, but an inner state to be remembered. Stress thrives in the past and the future. It cannot survive in the now. When you live with presence, you carry this realization with you, and life's challenges become opportunities to deepen your connection to the moment. Presence is a gift we can give ourselves every day. It is the antidote to the fragmented mind and the doorway to peace. In presence, you discover that life is not as overwhelming as the mind would have you believe. You find that you are not the stress, the thoughts, or the emotions. You are the awareness in which they arise. And in that awareness, there is profound peace. One of the most profound insights in transforming stress into peace is understanding that you are not your stress. Stress is an experience that arises within you, but it is not who you are. This realization creates a vital distinction between the self, the unchanging essence of who you are, and the situations or emotions you encounter. When you recognize this separation, you open the door to a deeper sense of calm, even in the face of life's challenges. Stress often feels overwhelming because we identify so closely with it. When we feel anxious or tense, we say, I am stressed, as though the stress defines us. This identification intensifies the experience, making it feel like a personal failure or a part of our identity. But the truth is, stress is an emotional or physiological response, a temporary state that comes and goes. It is not the entirety of who you are. If you can notice your stress, observe it and describe it, then there must be a part of you that is separate from it. This part of you, the observer, remains untouched by the stress. It is the still, steady awareness that watches the thoughts, feelings, and physical sensations associated with stress without being consumed by them. When you shift your perspective and see yourself as the observer rather than the stress itself, the intensity of the experience begins to diminish. Imagine standing on the shore of a turbulent ocean. The waves crash and roar, representing the stress and challenges you face. If you believe you are the waves, you are swept up in their chaos, tossed around by every rise and fall. But if you step back and see yourself as the shore, you realize that the waves come and go, while you remain steady and grounded. The shore is not disturbed by the waves, it simply allows them to be. This is the essence of separating yourself from stress, recognizing that you are the steady observer, not the turbulent experience. When you practice this awareness, you create a space between yourself and the stress. In that space, you gain the clarity to respond rather than react. Reacting happens when we are fully identified with stress, allowing it to dictate our actions and decisions. Responding, however, comes from a place of calm observation where we can choose how to engage with the situation. This shift from reaction to response is transformative, as it allows you to approach challenges with a sense of agency and peace. When stress arises, take a moment to observe it without judgment. Notice where you feel it in your body, perhaps as tension in your shoulders, a racing heart, or a knot in your stomach. Pay attention to the thoughts that accompany the stress. Are they focused on a specific fear or worry? By simply observing these sensations and thoughts, you affirm that you are not the stress itself, but the awareness observing it. This practice, repeated over time, reinforces your sense of inner stability. It is also helpful to reflect on the impermanence of stress. No matter how intense it feels, it will not last forever. Stress, like all emotions, is temporary. It arises, peaks, and eventually subsides. When you see stress as a passing experience rather than a permanent state, it loses much of its power. You begin to trust in your capacity to navigate it without becoming overwhelmed. This separation between self and stress does not mean ignoring or suppressing the experience. It is not about denial, but about creating a healthy relationship with it. By acknowledging stress without becoming entangled in it, you allow yourself to address its causes with greater clarity and compassion. You can ask yourself, what is this stress trying to tell me? What needs my attention? Or these questions help you engage with stress as a signal rather than a defining feature of your existence. Recognizing that you are not your stress is a profound act of liberation. It frees you from the cycle of identification and reactivity, allowing you to access the peace that is always present within you. Stress may arise, but it does not have to consume you. It is an experience that passes through your awareness like clouds moving across the sky. And just as the sky remains unchanged by the clouds, so too does your true self remain untouched by stress. In this understanding lies the foundation for enduring peace. Life is full of challenges. Some come as small inconveniences, others as significant trials. At first glance, these challenges might seem like obstacles to peace and happiness. They often evoke stress, frustration, or a sense of being stuck. But what if challenges weren't just problems to solve, but opportunities to grow? What if, instead of resisting them, you could reframe your perspective and discover the gifts they carry? Much of the stress we experience comes not from the challenge itself, but from how we perceive it. We label situations as bad, unfair, or undesirable, creating resistance in our minds. This resistance generates tension because it pits our expectations of how life should be against the reality of how life is. The struggle arises in the gap between these two. But when you shift your perception, that gap narrows and you begin to see challenges in a new light. Every challenge carries with it the potential for growth. It might not be immediately apparent, especially when the situation feels overwhelming. However, within every difficulty lies a hidden lesson or opportunity. Challenges push us out of our comfort zones, forcing us to confront aspects of ourselves or our circumstances that we might otherwise ignore. They are like mirrors, reflecting back to us our fears, limitations, and untapped strengths. Consider, for example, a conflict at work. Initially, it might feel stressful and frustrating, an unwelcome interruption to your day. But if you look deeper, you might notice that the conflict is teaching you something about communication, boundaries, or patience. It's an invitation to develop skills or qualities you hadn't prioritized before. By reframing the situation, you transform it from a source of stress into a stepping stone for personal growth. Reframing challenges also involves shifting the questions you ask yourself. Instead of asking, why is this happening to me, you can ask, what is this teaching me, or how can I grow through this experience? These questions redirect your focus from victimhood to empowerment. They encourage you to approach challenges with curiosity rather than resistance, opening the door to insights and solutions that might not have been visible before. Just as the seasons change, bringing both growth and dormancy, life's challenges are a natural rhythm. They are not signs that something is wrong, but reminders that change and transformation are integral to the human experience. When you accept this rhythm, you stop seeing challenges as interruptions and start seeing them as essential parts of your journey. Reframing challenges doesn't mean denying their difficulty. It's natural to feel stressed or upset when faced with a tough situation. Acknowledging these feelings is important. They are part of the experience. However, reframing invites you to move beyond these initial reactions and explore the broader perspective. It's about balancing the reality of the challenge with the understanding that there is something meaningful to be gained from it. Gratitude can also play a role in this process. While it might seem counterintuitive, finding something to appreciate within a challenge can shift your mindset. Gratitude doesn't mean you have to be thankful for the difficulty itself, but for the growth or clarity it can bring. For example, a period of stress might lead you to reevaluate your priorities, helping you focus on what truly matters. When you look back on challenging times, you often see that they were turning points, moments when you gained strength, wisdom, or resilience. One of the most empowering aspects of reframing challenges is realizing that your response matters more than the situation itself. You may not have control over what happens, but you have control over how you perceive and engage with it. This realization is freeing because it shifts your focus from what you cannot change to what you can. It gives you a sense of agency, reminding you that even in the face of adversity, you have the power to choose your perspective. It might not feel like it in the moment, but with time and reflection, its purpose becomes clearer. Challenges are not here to break you, but to shape you, to help you discover depths of strength, wisdom, and peace that you didn't know you had. When you embrace this perspective, stress no longer dominates your experience. Instead, it becomes a catalyst for transformation, guiding you toward a deeper understanding of yourself and the world around you. In this way, challenges cease to be burdens and become gifts. They are reminders that life is not static, that growth is always possible, and that even in the most difficult moments, there is an opportunity to turn stress into peace. The breath is a constant companion, an anchor in the rhythm of life, yet it is so ordinary, so automatic that we often overlook its profound power. In moments of stress, the breath has the unique ability to bring us back to the present, offering a gateway to stillness. It is always with us, a steady undercurrent amid the turbulence of our thoughts and emotions. By learning to connect with the breath, we can transform stress into peace and rediscover a sense of calm that resides within us. When stress arises, the body responds instinctively. The breath becomes shallow, rapid, and uneven, a reflection of the mind's agitation. This response is part of the body's fight or flight mechanism, preparing us to face perceived threats. But in many modern situations, the threats are not physical dangers, but mental and emotional pressures. The body reacts as if there is immediate danger, even though the threat might simply be a deadline, a difficult conversation, or an uncertain future. The result is a cycle of stress that feeds itself, leaving us feeling trapped in its grip. The breath, however, holds the key to breaking this cycle. Unlike other bodily functions, the breath operates both automatically. This dual nature makes it a powerful bridge between the mind and the body. When we consciously engage with the breath, we can influence our physiological state and, by extension, calm the mind. This connection between breath and well-being is why many ancient traditions, from meditation to yoga, have long emphasized its importance. In moments of stress, the first step is awareness. Simply notice your breath. How does it feel? Is it shallow or deep, fast or slow? This act of observation begins to shift your focus away from the whirlwind of stressful thoughts and towards something tangible and grounding. In observing the breath, you are stepping into the role of the witness, creating a space of calm even as the stress persists. Once you have observed the breath, you can begin to guide it intentionally. Deep breathing exercises are particularly effective in soothing the nervous system. A simple practice is to inhale deeply through the nose for a count of 4. Hold the breath gently for a count of 4, and then exhale slowly through the mouth for a count of 6 or 8. This pattern not only slows the breath but also signals to the body that it is safe to relax. With each exhale, tension releases and a sense of calm begins to emerge. Focusing on the breath also brings you into the present moment. Stress often arises from the mind dwelling in the past or projecting into the future. The breath, however, exists only in the now. By returning your attention to the rhythm of your inhalation and exhalation, you pull yourself out of the mental noise and into the simplicity of the present. In this way, the breath acts as a doorway to mindfulness, a state of awareness where stress naturally diminishes. The power of the breath extends beyond immediate stress relief. Regularly practicing conscious breathing helps cultivate a deeper connection to your inner stillness. Over time, it becomes easier to access this stillness even in challenging situations. You begin to notice that the breath is not just a tool for calming down, but a reminder of the peaceful foundation that is always within you. Breathing practices can also be tailored to different needs. For example, diaphragmatic breathing, where you focus on expanding the belly with each inhale, is especially effective for reducing tension in the body. Alternate nostril breathing, a technique from yoga, balances the nervous system and brings a sense of harmony. Even something as simple as sighing a long, audible exhale can release pent-up stress and provide instant relief. The beauty of using the breath is that it requires no special equipment or environment. It is accessible anytime, anywhere. Whether you are sitting in traffic, preparing for a meeting, or lying awake at night, the breath is always there, offering its quiet support. By developing a habit of tuning into your breath, you create a portable sanctuary, a space of calm that you can carry with you through life's uncertainties. A powerful way to practice letting go is to examine your attachments. Attachments often lie at the root of stress. We attach to specific outcomes, to the way we think things should be, or to the roles and identities we've built for ourselves. These attachments create a rigid framework for how we approach life, and when reality doesn't align with our expectations, stress arises. By identifying these attachments, you can begin to loosen their grip. Ask yourself, what am I holding on to in this moment? Is it a belief, a fear, or an expectation? What would happen if I let it go? These questions encourage you to explore the deeper layers of your stress and to recognize that many of the things you cling to are not essential to your well-being. Letting go is not about losing something, it's about creating space for something new to emerge. Another key aspect of letting go is releasing the need for control. While it's natural to want to steer your life in a certain direction, true peace comes from recognizing that you cannot control everything. You can influence your choices and actions, but the outcomes are often shaped by forces beyond your reach. Letting go of control doesn't mean you stop caring, it means you trust in the flow of life. You trust that even when things don't go as planned, you have the resilience and wisdom to adapt. Letting go also involves forgiving both yourself and others. Carrying the weight of past mistakes or grievances keeps you anchored in stress. Forgiveness is not about condoning harmful actions, it is about freeing yourself from the emotional burden they create. When you forgive, you let go of the story that keeps you tied to the pain, allowing yourself to move forward with greater lightness. The practice of letting go can be supported by rituals or mindfulness exercises. For instance, you might visualize yourself releasing your worries into the wind, or imagine placing your stress in a flowing river, letting the current carry it away. These symbolic acts help your mind and body internalize the process of release, making it feel more tangible. One of the most profound aspects of letting go is that it connects you to the present moment. When you let go of the past, you stop reliving what has already happened. When you let go of the future, you stop projecting fears or expectations. This brings you back to the now, where peace resides. Letting go doesn't mean you lose control, it means you regain the freedom to experience life as it unfolds. Letting go is an act of trust in yourself, in life, and in the natural flow of change. It is a practice that requires courage and compassion, but it is also deeply rewarding. When you let go, you discover that peace is not something you need to chase or create. It is already within you, waiting to emerge as you release what no longer serves you. Through letting go, stress dissolves, and in its place you find a profound sense of freedom and serenity. As we journey through life, stress will inevitably appear, but it does not have to define us. We have explored how stress arises, how presence anchors us, and how shifting our perspective and reframing challenges can transform what feels like adversity into opportunities for growth. We've seen that recognizing the separation between ourselves and our stress, connecting with the breath, and embracing the profound act of letting go are not only strategies for managing stress, but pathways to lasting peace. The wisdom here is simple yet profound. Peace is not something we must chase. It is not found in external circumstances or fleeting moments of respite. Instead, it resides within us, waiting to be rediscovered. Each tool and practice we've discussed is a way to reconnect with this inner stillness, to dissolve the illusions of stress, and to step into the freedom of the present moment. Life will continue to bring its share of uncertainty, challenges, and change. But when we meet these moments with presence, acceptance, and trust, we realize that they are not barriers to peace, they are invitations to deepen our connection to it. Stress becomes a teacher, and each breath, each moment of surrender, becomes an act of returning home to ourselves. Let us carry this understanding forward, choosing peace not as an endpoint, but as a way of being. In doing so, we transform not only our own lives, but also the energy we bring to the world. Together, we can turn stress into peace, moment by moment, breath by breath.